occasion, Dr. Yakubu Gowon, CFR, the President of African Development Bank Group.
Thank you very much, you may be seated. General Dr. Yakubu Gowon and his lovely wife, Her Excellency Dr. Mrs. Victoria Gowon, Sokoto, the former President of the Federal Republic, His Excellency Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, former Vice President, His Ex-presidents here present, ranking members of the National Assembly here present, serving and former members of the National Assembly here, the ranking members of the APC here present, our very distinguished members of the High Table, our esteemed traditional rulers here present, members of the diplomatic corps, heads of international organizations here present, heads of government and extra-ministerial departments, heads of Nigerian security apparatchik, serving service chiefs and their representatives and former service chiefs, faith leaders here, we celebrate you, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is wonderful to be celebrating today a man who is very special to us. My name is Eugenia Abu. I'm a national broadcaster, and I'm working today with my brother. I also see former Secretary to the Government of the Federation gathered here. I see former governors, I see former ministers, and I'd like to salute them all. I am without a doubt.
Ya Allah, as this nation is going through one of its most trying periods, open our eyes to imbibe the culture of humility of General Gowon. Open our...
Very quickly, it is my honor and privilege to then invite to the rostrum the chairman of the National Planning Committee for the General Dr. Yakubu Gowon's...
Okay, I am on him.
Your Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, here represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume. Your Excellency, the former head of state of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the celebrant of the day, General Dr. Yakubu Gowon, GCFR, and his lovely wife, Mrs. Victoria Gowon. The very distinguished chairman of this lecture, His Eminence, the Sultan of Sokoto, our beloved guest speaker, currently the President of the African Development Bank, who has come all the way to give this lecture, the former Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Architect Namadi Sambo, Your Excellency, the Governor of Bauchi State and other governors here present, Your Excellency's former governors here present, the very, very distinguished traditional ruler, because he happens to be my traditional ruler, the Esunupe. I say the Esunupe is a Bagaroj. Your Excellencies, very, very distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, because this is live and the time is limited, would like to appeal to those who are going to speak that you could just adopt the protocol already very well laid out by the MCs. That will save us a lot of time. On behalf of the National Planning Committee and on behalf of the family, friends, and associates of His Excellency General Dr. Yakubu Gowon, I'm very delighted to have the opportunity and the privilege to welcome all of you to this public lecture. Kindly join me, put your hands together for the celebrant. Can I hear you? We thank you very much for giving us the privilege of celebrating you today. I also, on behalf of the National Planning Committee, wish to thank immensely the distinguished chairman for this public lecture, His Eminence, the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Dr. Mohammed Saad Abubakar III, CFR. Your Eminence, we thank you for accepting to chair this lecture. You are most appropriate. You are well deserved. In fact, the family insisted that we should do everything possible to get you to chair this lecture. And when I reported to them that you've accepted, they were very delighted. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly join me. Welcome the Sultan of Sokoto. Very distinguished chairman of this lecture. Distinguished guests, may we request you to also kindly join me as we celebrate and as we look forward to the lecture, because we have a very brilliant mind, a celebrated leader who, when he was Minister of Agriculture of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, performed excellently. He won the election to become the President of the African Development Bank and is doing very, very well. And all Nigerians are proud of him. Kindly join me in welcome our guest speaker, Dr. Akinwumi Adeshina. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Your Excellency, we thank you very much for accepting to be our guest speaker today. We look forward very much to what you have to say on this great day when we are celebrating the birthday, not just an ordinary birthday, but the 90th birthday of the former head of state. We welcome you, and we're looking very much forward to what you want to say to us on this occasion. Especially the President of the ECOWAS Commission and the Commissioner representing Nigeria in ECOWAS, both of them and the other staff at ECOWAS really helped us greatly. Therefore, I want you to particularly help me to greet the President of the ECOWAS Commission, because they have received us very well. Can I hear you? Put your hands together for them. When I was busy thanking them and really expressing how delighted we are, they said, look, we have no choice. That is our founder. That is our father. That is the one who has shown the way. This is what we ought to do, and we are delighted to do it. So, Honorable, Your Excellency, the celebrant, you made our task very easy because they already loved you and they wanted to really do excellently well today. And I want to thank you very much for transforming the ECOWAS Secretariat for General Gowon today. I lost my way. Brilliant. Kindly join me again. Put your hands together for the ECOWAS. Thank you very much. The Director General and staff of NYSA have also been part of the National Planning Committee. I do now want to really thank you immensely for finding the time to be here this evening. We were, Abuja is a man of integrity, a man of wisdom, a man of God, the one who went around praying for the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We pray that God will answer your prayers for Nigeria. I can hear your amen. So, but the better half. In the army, the wives have a superior office. And therefore, if general is general doctor, the person I'm calling now is a field marshal. So, the National Planning Committee would like to thank an event. We hope, because our standards are very, very high, we hope we'll do our best. We are starting today. Today will be good. Tomorrow will be greater. The evening will be...
To celebrant, members of the high table, isn't it wonderful to be in the midst of your people at 90? It's a beautiful thing to celebrate. And Her Excellency, the former First Lady, Dr. Mrs. Victoria, the former Minister, the indefatigable chairperson of the Planning Committee has spoken. We thank you, sir. Another round of applause for him. Thank you, personality who has turned 90. He's a statesman. He's an Africanist, a global leader. Let's give another round of applause to our celebrant, please. It is from this man that we heard the famous quote, "The future of Nigeria lies in the hands of its youth. They must be given the opportunity to lead and to excel," unquote. General Dr. Yakubu Gowon. Let's hear three bosas from the coppers in the house. Let's go. That is what it's all about. The young people that General Gowon said would lead this nation are here in their numbers in a place where he created the National Youth Service Corps to ensure that we thank you, sir.
Back to Bulus.
I would like at this point
That's the way to tell the story.
to recognize, representing the whole of the FCT, the Honorable Minister of State, who is in our midst today for FCT. She is a family medical representing FCT. The Honorable Minister is here with us. We thank her so very much. Chief Olusegun Obasanjo has joined us. He's here with us. We thank you, sir. Always good to see you. And we have with us, of course, the former Senate President, His Excellency National Chair, His Excellency Dr. Ibrahim Badaginda. We will continue to bring the recognitions, but I think it's worthy for us to mention that we have on the
2 degrees as today's chairman. Thank you very much.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim.
That's the spirit. Thank you.
Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyil karim.
Now, Ishaya, what is this? What are you doing? I'm already on you, Ishaya.
Your Excellency, the celebrant,
Dauda, go to the celebrant.
Jack Yakubu Gowon, and his adorable
Give me 2.
better half, our own sister, Victoria. We're all here for General Gowon So I call him first. I recognize him first to show that we're all here for you. The representative of the president of the SGF,
Go to SGF.
the former president, Yalla on Sokoto, General Obasanjo, is one of my title holders, but he's not dressed as a title holder today, and is seated near me. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, honorable ladies and gentlemen, too numerous to mention you one by one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Let us first and foremost thank Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the long life He decided to give Yakubu Gowon. General Gowon evokes nostalgia for the good old days. The story of their days may today sound a fairy tale. There was a pecking order of seniority by age in community, and elders who are respected and revered, irrespective of their tribe or religion. A child was everybody's child in the community. So every child behaved and could be disciplined by any adult, anywhere, anytime. The values of honesty, probity, hard work, selflessness were the hallmark of our society. Teachers were also role models, and so they were pupils of their own children. No one dared to live above his means or acquire any wealth beyond his legitimate earnings. It is the immediate community that sanctions such venality before even the authorities step in. The civil service was both productive and efficient. Citizens had a lot of respect for authority. Society lived in peace and harmony. General Gowon's presence reminds us of the struggle to keep this country intact and united. His name evokes Nigerian unity. Gowon was turned into an acronym for Go On With One Nigeria. Indeed, he was the symbol of unity, humility, and accommodation. He came to leadership as a child of necessity, following the 1966 military coup. As a young, dashing bachelor, whom one beautiful nurse had her eyes on,
Give me two of them.
and swept him off his feet. And 1969 brought the two of them together as head of state and first lady. You all know what I mean, because Victoria had been there all these years. National cohesion and integration had been the hallmark of what we have been doing. He laid the foundation for continuity and stability. We owe him immense gratitude for the perseverance and tenacity in keeping this country in one piece and at peace with itself. Nigeria is exceptionally lucky to have a statesman of his age in full consciousness. Not many countries are really lucky to have such statesmen that live this long and in relatively good health. Statesmen are a repository of institutional memory and wisdom. Their presence in our midst help us to remember things and recall experiences that would guide us in times of crisis. It's my pleasure and privilege, and I say privilege, but when I was a young man, when Gowon was head of state, I was a very, very young person. Today, it's a privilege to chair this anniversary lecture, where we recognize our nation's leader and our mentor, and appreciate his contribution to this great country at a critical junction of its history. The lecturer, as we all know, a distinguished Nigerian whom we are all very proud of for his services to the country and Africa, is really fit to wear the cap of the distinguished lecturer for today. My few words above are only an attempt to convey our gratitude to this great statesman. Only Almighty God can reward him for the sacrifices and the perseverance he made to keep this country one and serve it with diligence and dedication. Before I conclude, I would like to just want to ask all of us here in this hall, look around and see the dignitaries that have come to honor this humble and honorable gentleman. Why so? And I quote, I'm trying to give you an answer now, and I quote my father, Sultan Dasuki, the 18th Sultan of Sokoto, where he said, if you pursue a life of honor, you may come to some material abundance. But if you pursue strictly the accumulation of material wealth by any and every means, you are not likely to find the company and pleasure of honor. As I round up, I want to use this medium. As I've done before, I have talked to them to wish General Gowon many, many more years in good health. As his presence in our midst is a panacea for our unity and stability. As I say happy 90th birthday, may Almighty Allah bring us together again, not this hall to a much bigger hall, for us to mark your 100 years alive and healthy. As I thank all of you, because I don't want to say much about our relationship with General Gowon and his family, with my father. I would like him to say so, because one thing I know he's always telling me he is missing is the fura that we used to take to him in Jordan Barracks when he was head of state. And I told him that fura is still available, and I will send it to him today to his house. So General, once more, we wish you all the very best. And to everybody here, as the chairman of this occasion, and I want to ask the chairman of the planning committee, I hope I'm chairing very well. Because you said if you are doing anything, do it well. So if you are chairing, you better chair well. So chairman, I hope I'm chairing very well. We thank you most sincerely and wish you all the very best. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
That we give the distinguished chairman of this occasion another bigger round of applause. And to also thank him. We must also thank him for keeping it very succinct and, of course, straight to the point. And I think this is leadership by example. So we're expecting other speakers to follow suit. Please let's give him another round of applause. At this juncture, I just want to take time out to recognize Governor of Bauchi State, Kauram Bauchi, Senator Bala Mohammed. We welcome you, sir. We welcome the former Governor of Bauchi State, Dr. Adamumo Azu, CON. A round of applause for him. We also welcome the former Governor of Kano State, Engineer Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso. We welcome you, sir. To Yaya Obakar III, we like you. Thank you so very much for coming. We'll keep the recognitions coming, but then, of course, the business at hand. We have a long list of distinguished senators seated at the other end. I see Senator Adams Osho, which is what General Gowon is known for. He loves Nigerian food. Even whilst he was in London schooling, he was every now and then eating Nigerian food. That much I can tell you. He loves native food. And so we want to showcase a bit of the cultural, rich, very cultural heritage of our people. And in the light of that, we'd like to welcome, salute to excellence in songs and cultural.
the rhythm.
A man astute in shuttle diplomacy, a former president and cultural aficionado, I bring you a man whose time it is to deliver his intervention at this celebration today. Please help me welcome a man popularly referred to as OBJ, His Excellency, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo. Continue to clap, it's a long walk. And he makes his way, exchanges pleasantries as he always does. We celebrate His Excellency.
Welcome.
Bolus. I'm on you, Bolus, please.
Your Excellency, my boss,
Hold on, Dauda, let me.
the celebrant, a man of destiny, Sir, before I go on and recognize or acknowledge the presence
Gowon and his wife.
of all the distinguished men and women here on of this occasion,
You, Dauda.
because on the program, if you look at your program very well, I'm not billed to speak. On the chairman of this occasion, I said to him that if he will chair well, he will not call me to speak.
Go to Sultan, Dauda. Go to Sultan.
And he said he will use
Only him.
his power and authority
Zoom in to him. Zoom in on.
to make sure that I am called out
Coming to you.
to speak. And I said if he does that, he will not have been chairing well. As if that was not bad enough.
Move away. Go back to Gowon, Dauda.
When I was called out, he said he has successfully performed a coup. Sir, in your power and authority as the former president and head and commander-in-chief, I will leave the judgment in your hand. Tomorrow, I'm supposed to be speaking. And I don't want to undermine myself by saying today what I should be saying tomorrow.
Hassan, change your shot. Give me another set of.
But I will say a few of the things that I will be saying tomorrow.
Hassan, leave down these camera operators. Go to the front.
One is that
Hold it. Come, I'm on you, Hassan.
this is a national celebration. And you are worthy to be nationally celebrated while you are still alive. I look at the galaxy of distinguished men and women around. Only very few of them can claim to be eyewitnesses to your time in government, not to talk of your time in the army. And because by the grace of God, who has given you the longevity of life, and who has given me a little bit to be following you, I will just thank God on your behalf that God has made you to be 90. If I have come from Calabar, I will say 90 no be yoke. And sir, 90 no be joke. I will reserve the rest of my comment till tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Your Excellencies, indeed, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, His Excellency, is a man who is a delight to media personalities. Not only is he a delight to media personalities, he indeed brings it each time, and Nigerians celebrate you, sir. We welcome you, and we thank you for your intervention today. We do have quite a number of goodwill messages as the program proceeds, but we will, at this point, like to take a quick quote. All we have.
Your Excellency, the Field Marshal, Mrs. Victoria Gowon, former First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Your Excellency, President Baba Olusegun Obasanjo, GCFR, former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Your Excellency, Architect Namadi Sambo, who was my boss, GCON, former Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency, the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Dr. Mohammed Saad Abubakar III, CFR Chairman of the lecture. And I can tell you, sir, that you are doing an incredible job as the chair, and I think that you use your authorities very, very well, and in fact, you have full diplomatic cover and immunity for all the actions that you've taken. Your Excellency Umar Aliyu Toure, President of the ECOWAS Commission, thanks for having us, my brother, at your office here. Your Excellency, Executive Governors, Governor Bala Ahmed, my dear brother, we serve together in the government, and other executive governors here and former governors, the former President of the Senate, Bola Saraki, distinguished senators, honorable members of the National Assembly, past and present, honorable ministers, present and past. I see a lot of my colleagues also here today. Our real fathers, our spiritual fathers, Professor Jerry Ghana, Chairman of the National Planning Committee for the events commemorating the 90th
birthday of His Excellency General Yakubu Gowon. And Professor, you spoke like a pastor, and I was really waiting for you to collect the offering at the end of what you said. Maybe you'll do that later on. Eminent guests,
Okay, no problem.
distinguished ladies and gentlemen, of course, my very beautiful wife, Grace Yemisi, is here with me. And I can't do anything without her, so
Hassan, change this your shot.
Baba gave her, actually, Baba says that all of my achievements in life, I deserve 45, and he gives her 55. So he always says, Chase Yemisi 55, I'm acting 45, but maybe today you give me 46, sir. And the amazing National Youth Corpus. Yes, Corpus. Your father is celebrating today, so you are all excited.
Hold it.
It's a great honor to have been asked by His Excellency General Yakubu Gowon and Mrs. Gowon, and invited by the eminent members of the National Planning Committee to deliver the keynote lecture today. I am filled with a very deep sense of appreciation, given the significance of this august occasion. And I'm sincerely humbled by the privilege of being here to celebrate along with friends, families, and fraternal associates from far and wide the 90th birthday of one of Nigeria's greatest statesmen, a revered leader, a father of the nation, His Excellency General Yakubu Gowon. I wish to congratulate His Excellency on his epoch-making 90th birthday. I would also like to extend my congratulations to your ever-beautiful, elegant, poised, wise, never-aging wife, Mommy Victoria Gowon. You're as beautiful as when he married you, actually. And to your dear family that is here with you. General, you remain the youngest person ever to become the head of state of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. At the incredibly young age of 31, responsibility for the affairs of this great nation were thrust upon your shoulders. You married your sweetheart, the radiantly beautiful Victoria Hansatu Zachary. At the age of 34, you were. She was 23. And what a day it was. The image of both of you walking resplendently down the aisle of the Christ Church Cathedral, Lagos, is still etched in the minds of those of us old enough to remember. Permit me to go down the memory lane, General Gowon. And if I might, sir, I think I am a bloody civilian, so I can still do this. My favorite image of you is riding in the royal carriage beside the British monarch, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, during a state visit to the United Kingdom.
Only him.
As you waved to an adoring crowd with your impeccably white gloves. It was an unprecedented reception,
Coming to you.
and one reserved for exceptional global leaders of that era. The news and the images went viral globally, even though digital and social media did not exist at that time. I knew then that Nigeria was destined for global greatness. It is extremely hard to believe that the young and incredibly handsome military officer with a thin mustache, in fact, General, I am to tell you, sir, I actually started wearing a mustache just because of you. And head of state and commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is now 90 years old. Along with all the well-wishers here today and many joining around the world, I salute you, General. Hearty congratulations once again. You are an exemplary Nigerian and African leader. As head of state, your leadership was marked by several firsts. Your visionary leadership led to the creation of the Economic Commission of West African State ECOWAS, where we are today, bringing together all 16 countries in the region for economic and political cooperation. You created the National Youth Service Corps, the NYSC. That's right. The only policy decision in the history of Nigeria that has endured all governments, a pointer to your remarkable vision and confidence in the youth and Nigeria's unity. I would like the Nigerian NYSC that are there, please rise up and take your cap off and salute the General.
You are a disappointment.
Thank you. All right. Good, thank you very much. Thank you. As a recognition of the beauty and richness of our cultural diversity, and ahead of the first ever Festival of Arts and Culture, Festag, you commence the construction of the National Theatre, now named by His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the Wole Soyinka Center for Culture and Creative Arts. Your fingerprints are still seen in countless lasting infrastructure developments across Nigeria. I can keep listing your endless achievements. The bottom line is that leaders are not to be emulated. Leaders are to be emulated. General Gowon, you are to be emulated. Emulated for your candor and nationalistic fervor. Emulated for your humility and ability to work with everyone. Emulated for your never-ending drive to unify the country. Emulated for your never-failing Nigeria praise. Emulated for always having Nigeria in your heart. The acronym for your name says it all. Go on with one Nigeria. When General Gowon was told he had been overthrown in a military coup while attending an OAU summit in Kampala, Uganda, he was amazingly calm and collected. He was the embodiment of serene demeanor he was known for as he walked briskly out of the hall. When asked by the reporters what was next, he said in a very few words, one of his standout statements of all time: "Take care of Nigeria for me." What a profound statement to make at the lowest point of one's career. It was crystal clear, even back then, that General Yakubu Gowon has transcended self to focus on others. Nigeria was on his mind and in his heart. The young army officer with the white gloves had grown to become a leader for Nigerians of all ages, a father of the nation. Prior to independence in 1960, our nation's builders had a dream of a Nigeria that will be the shining light of Africa, and indeed the black race. As the Union Jack flag was lowered, and the green, white, green flag of the newly born nation Nigeria was raised on October 1st, 1960, the whole world knew that the largest black nation on earth was making its debut. As Nigerians, we are often preoccupied with our differences and tend to think of the geographical delineations of our land. One question we do not ask ourselves enough is, what are we supposed to be? Certainly, Nigeria, 64 years after independence, should not be a developing country. Nigeria should be a developed nation.
Hassan, can you hear me?
As president of the African Development Bank, as I travel around Africa, one issue that often marks conversations is, when will Nigeria develop? I have listened to several leaders tell me that the rise of Africa depends on the rise of Nigeria. As the largest black nation on earth, we carry within us the hopes and aspirations of all black people in the world.
Can
yearnings
you hear
that
me?
this nation
Go
will
to
become
another
a
group.
beacon
Leave
in the
this
world,
and go to another group.
and an inspiration that will elevate the whole continent of Africa. It is therefore time that we start thinking of Nigeria not in terms of what or where we currently are, or how we currently see ourselves, but rather in terms of the responsibility of history
Ishaya, be looking
that we
at
must
the
lift
finder.
all of
And
Africa.
right a little bit to center your shot.
When the Gulf region was to develop,
I'm on you, Ishaya.
it took Saudi Arabia to set the pace. And today, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and Kuwait, each of those nations have risen to become global giants. When Europe had to develop, it needed Germany, the United Kingdom, and France to spur the growth across the continent. When Asia had to develop, it took China, Japan, and South Korea to spark even wider growth from Singapore to India, Malaysia, and Indonesia. For Africa to develop, it needs Nigeria to
Master, can you
develop
hear me now?
faster.
Can you
History
hear me now?
beckons on Nigeria, and we cannot disappoint. So I would like to speak to you today about building a global Nigeria. From the onset, I want to be very clear that I'm not here to criticize any government, past or present, but rather as a citizen, and also as somebody passionate about this land and the continent, to reflect on what we must do collectively to be all that we can be in the global committee of nations, a global Nigeria. Yes, I dream of a better tomorrow for Nigeria. I refuse to believe that Nigeria will falter or fail. I believe that Nigeria will overcome, rise, flourish, and shine. I believe that Nigeria shall be all that it is meant to be. It was Martin Luther King who said, "History has thrust upon me a responsibility which I cannot turn away." Yes, history has thrust on Nigeria a responsibility it cannot turn away. Nigeria must become a global powerhouse. That is our responsibility. A global Nigeria must start with a poverty-free Nigeria. Today, poverty is extremely pervasive in Nigeria. The National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, in 2022 estimated that 63% of persons living within Nigeria, that's 133 million people at the time, are multidimensionally poor. It also states that over half of the population of Nigeria cook with dung, charcoal, wood, rather than cleaner energy. High deprivations are also apparent nationally in sanitation, healthcare, food security, and housing. Poverty is particularly extreme in rural areas where millions of people have been forgotten and abandoned. The gravity of the situation is even worse in northern Nigeria. The NBS report states further, and I quote, that multidimensional poverty is higher in rural areas where 72% of the people are poor, compared to 42% of people in the urban
Move away
areas.
from this group.
And as we speak today, 65% of the poor, that's 86 million people, live in northern Nigeria, while 35%, nearly 47 million, live in the south. The incidence of multidimensional poverty ranges from a low of 27% in Ondo to a high of 91% in Sokoto. These extremely high levels of poverty have fueled criminality, banditry, kidnappings, and armed robbery. A recent survey of the crime economy in Nigeria shows that the Northwest, Northeast, and North Central have been devastated, with kidnappings becoming a default economy. From schools to farms, markets and towns, villages and communities, the level of suffering, helplessness, and abandonment are gutting out hope and drowning communities and people in despair as economic activities plummet. Consequently, the criminal economy is upending the real economy of Nigeria. To address the situation, urgent and comprehensive efforts are needed to restore security and law and order, to protect lives, property, and farmlands, and to restore normalcy to traumatized zones, towns, villages, and communities, to stabilize and restore economic fortunes, education, health, social protection, and jobs for youth programs must be prioritized. Simultaneously, we must decisively tackle and reduce the burgeoning numbers of out-of-school children. A global Nigeria must be a food-secure Nigeria. The World Food Programme estimates that 26.5 million Nigerians currently face acute hunger. This is a situation that's compounded by inflation that has risen to 32.1%. The Nigerian Economic Summit estimates that inflation in Nigeria reached a 28-year high in June of 2024. The current high level of food insecurity and hunger deserves decisive actions. In the first quarter of 2024, Nigeria's food import bill hit a 5-year high at 1.5 trillion naira. Nigeria's food import bill topped 7.8 trillion naira in the past 6 years alone. The African Development Bank Group and partners provided 314 million naira to Nigeria for emergency food production. I think that will have produced at least 4 million metric tons of food if that plan had been followed and implemented as agreed. Securing Nigerians' food supplies requires accelerating local food production, providing farmers with high-yielding seeds, the accessibility and affordability of fertilizers, mechanization, and the rapid expansion of irrigation, given the challenges of climate change. To ensure food security, the federal government, in conjunction with the state governments, should, in my humble opinion, return to the highly successful growth enhancement scheme and the electronic wallet scheme that was put in place when I was your Minister of Agriculture. Both initiatives delivered high-quality seeds and fertilizers to over 15 million farmers, which made food available at relatively low costs across Nigeria. For purposes of implementation, transparency, and accelerated impact, the Growth Enhancement Scheme and the e-wallet scheme should be protected by legislation. To help unleash the potential of the food and agricultural sector, the African Development Bank and its partners are investing right now over $814 million in the development of what's called special agro-industrial processing zones in 8 states of the Federation. Thank you.
Coming to you, Dauda.
This will help Nigeria to process and add value to all of its agricultural commodities and establish critically needed platforms for becoming competitive in global agricultural value chains.
Single shot, Dauda.
Decisive and sustained efforts are needed to end insecurity, especially to save vast areas of the food belt of Nigeria in the northwest, northeast, and middle belt. The deployment of digital surveillance tools, drones, artificial intelligence, and satellite imagery needs to be increasingly used to track and provide intelligence. The development and the deployment of farm protection guards and safe food transport corridors are worth developing. A more secure Nigeria will be a more food secure Nigeria. A global Nigeria must be competitive globally.
Go to the front row.
Nigeria is losing out on the global drive for competitiveness in a world that is rapidly being changed via education, digital skills acquisition, and innovations across all sectors. The Global Competitiveness Index rankings for 2022 show that Nigeria was ranked 114 out of 140 countries globally. And worse, Nigeria ranked well below several African countries, including South Africa, Seychelles, Botswana, and Namibia in Southern Africa, below Senegal and Ghana in West Africa, below Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda in East Africa, and as well below Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia in North Africa. A global Nigeria must invest heavily in education. The ability of any nation to be globally competitive is determined by its human capacity or talent pools. That's why, Your Excellencies, the greatest investment that Nigeria can make is in education, especially higher education. It is worth noting that today, China has over 240 million people with higher education, which is more than the entire population of Nigeria. However, only 7% of Nigeria's population have had access to higher education. This puts Nigeria in an uncompetitive position with developed countries, where the share of the population with higher education is high, including South Korea, 70%, Canada, 67%, Japan, 66%, Ireland, 63%, Luxembourg, 60%, and the United Kingdom, 58%. Nigeria must therefore step up and become an undisputed leader on innovation in Africa and position itself through a massive paradigm-shifting investment in education to catch up and to bridge the talent divide with developed economies and other emerging market economies. A global Nigeria must have globally competitive quality infrastructure. After years of growth, post-independence, industrial development in Nigeria is today constrained by extremely poor state of transport, ports, and logistics infrastructure. Estimates suggest that it costs $35,000 to export 100 tons of produce from Nigeria, compared to just $4,000 from Ghana. About 90% of passengers and freight movements in Nigeria rely on roads, of which only 18% are paved. Meanwhile, our seaports are gridlocked. Recently, the Financial Times reported that the congestion at the port in Lagos has become so bad that it could cost more than $4,000 to truck a container 20 kilometers inland, almost as much as it costs to ship the very same container 12,000 nautical miles all the way from China. Here, Nigeria can learn from Morocco, where the African Development Bank supported the development of the Tangier-Med port. This port is unique. It is an industrial port complex and platform with over 1,100 companies operating from within it. They collectively exported over 8 billion euros worth of goods in 2020. The port is home to several global companies, including Bosch, Daimler, Huawei, Siemens, and several others. Local companies located in the Tangier-Med have also allowed Morocco to move up several global value chains, including automobiles, automotive parts, aeronautics, agriculture. Thank you. Agriculture, food manufacturing, textile, and logistics. Annually, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, over 460,000 cars are manufactured in that zone for exports every year. And more interesting is that the bulk of the workers and employees at the port complex are Moroccans. I decided to take a walk one day at the Tangier-Med port. I saw a well-synchronized maze moving with incredible efficiency. There were no kilometer-long lines of trucks waiting to get in and out of the port. The takeaway from Morocco's Tangier port is simply this: Nigeria must move away from the usual Gestapo-like approaches of raiding ports, or deploying soldiers to decongest ports, or having to control vehicular traffic at the ports. There are more sophisticated and efficient ways of doing so. With a view to creating a global Nigeria, Nigeria's focus should not be on decongesting ports, but on transforming ports. These must start with cleaning up administrative bottlenecks, most of which are completely unnecessary, with multiple government agencies at the ports, high transaction costs, and even blatant extortion from illegal taxes and contributions that never go into government coffers. To strongly support Africa's social and economic growth, the African Development Bank invests heavily in infrastructure. Over the last 8 years alone, we have invested over $55 billion in infrastructure, including roads and highways, transport corridors, seaports, airports, ICT infrastructure, and regional power transmission networks. The African Development Bank has invested $369.2 million in the highway connecting Enugu to Bamenda in Cameroon, a transport corridor that will serve 11 million people. Also, we have invested $49.5 million in the Lekki Toll Road, easing traffic and lowering transport costs. The bank is mobilizing now support for the development of the railway line connecting Kano to Maradi in the Niger Republic. And of significant note, the African Development Bank has provided $12.6 million to my brother, the President of ECOWAS Commission, to support a feasibility study for the Lagos-Abidjan Corridor Highway. As a bank, we and other institutions will help to mobilize the $15 billion necessary to finance that corridor, which carries over 80% of the trade in the region. When completed, the corridor will enhance transport connections from Nigeria to the rest of the West Africa region, with one border posts to facilitate intra-regional trade. And just for full disclosure of why this is very important to me, when His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari was president, I came here to see him, and I talked about this particular project. He told me, Akin, if you don't get that project on the way, don't come back to Nigeria. And when I went to Ivory Coast, where I was staying, President Alassane Ouattara looked at me and said, Akin, if you don't get that railway, that corridor done, don't stay in Abidjan. So you can imagine I have my incentives to get it done. But I want to thank the President of ECOWAS for the great work he's doing to get this on the way. A global Nigeria must achieve universal access to electricity. Today, the major challenge facing Nigeria's manufacturing is the very high cost and unreliability of electricity supply. Load shedding and the inconsistent availability of electrical power have resulted in high and uncompetitive manufacturing costs from Nigeria. Most Nigerian manufacturing companies self-provide their own energy with a high dependence on generators, diesel, and heavy fuel oil. Their emissions contributions make them brown industries, not green industries. And I remember one day I was traveling with my wife from Ibadan to Lagos, and I saw this really weird big advert, and it was all about generators. And they wrote under it, "We are the nation's #1 reliable energy supplier." It has been estimated by the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, that Nigeria loses about $29 billion annually. $29 billion annually. That is 5.8% of its GDP due to lack of reliable power supply. The report also indicates that Nigerians spend $14 billion per year on generators and fuel. There is no better way to say it. The lack of electricity is killing Nigerian industries. According to the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, industry spent $93.1 billion on alternative energy in 2018 when I read that. Today, no business can survive in Nigeria without generators. Consequently, the abnormal has become normal. Nigeria has gas and crude oil in abundance, yet 86 million people live daily without electricity. Today, Nigeria is the #1 country in the world in terms of the total number of people without electricity. To support Nigeria and African countries, other African countries, the African Development Bank invests massively in the continent's power sector. To support the implementation of Nigeria's power sector recovery program, the bank provided $200 million for the Nigeria Electrification Project, which is designed to fill the country's electricity access gap. We have invested $210 million in the Nigeria Transmission Project to strengthen the grid power evacuation and regional interconnection. Your Excellencies, a major component of the African Development Bank's energy strategy was the launch of what we call Desert to Power Initiative, a $20 billion initiative to provide electricity to 250 million people across 11 countries of the Sahel, including northern Nigeria. It is expected that the Desert to Power investment will create the world's largest solar zone. This initiative will draw on lessons from successful projects already financed by the bank, including the world's largest concentrated solar power plant called the New Ouarzazate Power Project in Morocco and the Bembang Solar Project in Egypt. To support the efforts of African countries to achieve universal access to electricity, the president of the World Bank Group, my friend Ajay Banga, and I made a decision at a spring meeting of the World Bank in April that the World Bank and the African Development Bank together, we will connect 300 million people, Africans, including Nigerians, to electricity by 2030. And that's what's called the Mission 300. It's the largest such effort in the world. A global Nigeria must be an industrialized Nigeria. For decades, the share of manufacturing in Nigeria's GDP has hovered around 7%, as the nation has not been able to extricate itself from a comatose industrial manufacturing sector that is yet to unleash the fullness of its innovative potential. This is in sharp contrast to the dynamic and rapid performance of manufacturing in Asian countries such as Singapore, Malaysia, and China. While Asian countries are focused on export of manufactured products, Nigeria's approach has been on import substitution. The manufacturing sector of Nigeria represents only 3% of total revenues from exports, but accounts for 50% of the imports into the country. Instead of being forward-looking in expanding the share of manufactured goods in total export revenue, Nigeria focuses on the model of import substitution. Import substitution, while important, is a very restrictive vision. It looks towards survival instead of looking to create wealth through greater export markets and value diversification. The result is a manufacturing sector that cannot nor compete globally or limit itself to survival mode and not a global manufacturing growth mode. Nigeria must have greater ambitions for its manufacturing sector by integrating and rapidly moving up global and regional value chains in areas of comparative advantage, by driving greater specialization and competitiveness, and by heavily investing in skill upgrades and human capacity development. The bottom line is that a well-developed and policy-enabled manufacturing sector with an export-oriented focus will spur greater innovation, develop our export market potential, and structurally transform the economy. Instead of being consumed with conservation of foreign exchange, the focus will shift to rapidly expanding foreign exchange through enhanced export value diversification. The $20 billion Dangote refinery, the largest single train refinery in the world, with a capacity to produce 650,000 barrels of refined petroleum products per day, is nothing short of a technological marvel. And it tells you what Nigerians can do. I am proud of Aliko Dangote. I went there myself, and I said to myself, if a person can do this, one in Nigeria, just imagine if you have so many of this in Nigeria, what we will be. This refinery will reduce Nigeria's dependence on others, secure national food supplies, reduce foreign exchange expenditure, lower fuel prices, and hopefully create millions of jobs in the country. Nigeria needs more industrial global launching pads like the Dangote refinery. As head of state, General Gowon's National Development Plan was a masterpiece. With industrialization as a pivotal priority, which spurred successive governments. Beginning in the early 1970s, Nigeria instituted an industrial policy to support automobile assembly plants. How proud we were to ride made in Nigeria Peugeots and Volkswagens. Well, God was good, wasn't it? Consumer demand was fueled by auto loans by commercial banks. General Olusegun Obasanjo, as head of state in 1976, made it mandatory for government officials across the board to ride made in Nigeria cars. As the head of state himself and governors drove made in Nigeria vehicles, there was an initial surge in the assembly of cars with high local demand for locally made vehicles. Unfortunately, this was not sustained. If Nigeria had sustained this drive, it would have become the lead exporter of vehicles in Africa and to the rest of the world, exactly what South Africa has done and become today. Today, Nigeria prides itself as a demand center for vehicles made by others, wasting resources that it should put into building and supporting a strong local automotive industry. The emergence of Innoson Automobile, an indigenous Nigerian company based in Inewi, Anambra State, is to be highly applauded. I am proud of Innoson. Today, Innoson's fleet includes several options, including fuel and electric vehicles, and military-grade armored vehicles, which it now exports. I think you should clap for him. But it would make more than one company, it would take more than one company to build an industry. The advantages for a sound local automobile industry will be massive. Massive. Research, technology, and innovation. Highly skilled engineers and labor force. Small and medium-sized businesses supplying the automobile value chains. Savings from exports, imports, and so on. With the size of its population and markets, Nigeria should pursue vigorously joint ventures to establish major auto manufacturing industries in this country. An industrialized Nigeria will be a wealthy and prosperous Nigeria. A nation that should inspire Nigeria to be all it can be is Korea. Korea does not import to consume. It imports what it uses to drive its industrialization. Korea has no steel, so it imports steel and uses it to become the world's largest builder and exporter of cargo and passenger ships. Korea has no oil or natural gas. It relies on the import of crude oil and gas. It uses that gas to power its economy and to drive industries. Korea has leveraged the import of electric machinery to become one of the largest exporters of cars in the world. Korea's major car companies, manufacturers, from Hyundai to Kia to Renault, Korea, Daewoo, and so on, exported 2.8 million cars in 2023 to 198 countries. In the first quarter of 2024, Korea exported $37 billion worth of cars. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, that is 67% of Nigeria's crude oil export per year, all in just one quarter. As a result, Korea is an industrialized economy and one of the largest exporters in the world. Its exports in 2023 were $623 billion. Nigeria's import is for consumption, not for industrialization. Nigeria's export in 2023 was a mere $57 billion, of which crude oil accounts for $52 billion. Paradoxically, for decades, Nigeria has exported crude oil and imported petrol and finished petroleum products. The resultant impact on the economic divergence is stark. Poverty, take it for example. Just 2% of Koreans live in poverty. And yet today, the number of Nigerians living in poverty is 88.4 million people, or 40% of the population. That is 1.69 times the population of Korea. And what about per capita income? The per capita income of Korea is $34,164 per person. The per capita income of Nigeria, by contrast, is $1,109 per person. Today, Korea is the 10th largest donor country in the world. A global Nigeria must therefore move into high-valued manufacturing. Take the example of Vietnam, a nation that was at war with the United States for 20 years. Despite setbacks and post-war challenges, it quickly emerged as an Asian tiger by mimicking the successful Asian countries, such as South Korea. It pushed into relatively complex product categories and horizontal diversification that also included processing of agricultural products. Vietnam's diversified exports in 2020 included $153 billion of electrical machinery and equipment, $23.9 billion of machinery including computers, $23.4 billion of footwear, and $15.5 billion of clothing, accessories, among others. In total, Vietnam's exports in 2020 stood at $348 billion. Malaysia achieved vertical diversification from an agricultural base of rubber and palm oil, which it got from here. It will later go on to invest heavily in high-tech sectors, including electronics. In 2020, its largest exports by value were in semiconductors, electrical integrated circuits, refined petroleum products, palm oil, vulcanized rubber and accessories, and solar power diodes. The value of Malaysia's export in 2020 derived from the following: electrical machinery and equipment, $88.6 billion. Mineral fuels, including oil, $25.5 billion. Machinery, including computers, $20.2 billion. Animal, vegetable exports and waxes, $13.5 billion. Rubber and rubber articles, $11.2 billion, among others. In total, Malaysia's export in 2022 was valued at $234 billion US. By contrast, Nigeria's exports in 2020 were dominated by mineral fuels, including oil, valued at $29.7 billion only, which accounts for 89% of the exports. Nigeria's total export value was a mere $33.5 billion. That dollar amount represents a minus 3.6% decrease since 2016 and a drop of minus 37.5% in 2019 and to 2020. Interestingly, Nigeria's imports were dominated by machinery, including computers, mineral fuels, including oil, vehicles, electrical machinery, equipment, pharmaceutical, and plastics. By contrast, most of these imports are what Vietnam and Malaysia export in abundance. And worse, Nigeria imports mineral fuels, which it should be producing as a leading crude oil exporting nation. It exports crude, that looks like an export I'm just doing over there. It exports crude, it imports refined products, a befuddling irony. So what is my message in all of what I've said here? While Nigeria's export basket has hardly changed, Malaysia and Vietnam have used aggressive horizontal and vertical industrial manufacturing diversification to move from low-valued products to high-valued market products. The result is self-evident in the comparative wealth of the three countries. While export value per capita is $7,100 for Malaysia and $3,600 for Vietnam, it is only $160 for Nigeria. While Malaysia and Vietnam have moved to global manufacturing growth and creating massive wealth and jobs for themselves, Nigeria remains in a survival mode, still unable to substitute the imports of its petroleum products, while being one of the largest exporters of crude oil. Nigeria has had good policies, templates and programs for industrialization and expanding industrial manufacturing for decades. Nigeria's first national development plan emphasized industrialization. There was a national economic empowerment development strategy, NEEDS, in the 1990s, and the Nigerian Industrial Revolution Plan, NIRP, in 2015. These were all good policies. But there is need to close the gap between policy ideas and implementation. Today, Your Excellencies, capacity utilization of factories hovers around 40% compared to desired 70%. The reality, in view of the several challenges facing the industrial manufacturing sector, is that firms are moving to neighboring countries where there is greater macroeconomic stability, enabling environments, and a much easier ease of doing business. To be a manufacturer in Nigeria is not an easy business. You succeed not because of the ease of doing business, but by surmounting several constraints that limit industrial manufacturing. Your Excellencies, a global Nigeria must deliver a talent dividend. The rate and speed at which Nigerians are leaving the country, the so-called Japa syndrome, risk undermining Nigeria's economic drive for economic rejuvenation and positioning for global dominance. Nigeria's best talents, including doctors and nurses and lawyers and engineers, architects and computer programmers, artists and cultural entrepreneurs, sport athletes, and even bankers, are voting with their feet and leaving Nigeria in droves due to economic hardships, high unemployment, a corrosive rate of inflation that daily eats away the value of their assets, insecurity, and a palpable decline in their quality of life. PricewaterhouseCoopers estimates that the exodus of Nigerian talents will lead to a loss of close to $5 billion annually in this country. Yet, this is happening against the backdrop of rapid growth in artificial intelligence that holds enormous opportunities for shaping and transforming the world economy. In a recent analysis, PwC estimated that artificial intelligence will add $116 trillion to the global economy by 2030 and $316 billion annually to the economies of just 4 African countries: Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, and Ghana by 2030. Nigeria is well poised to take advantage of this opportunity, with the nation being one of the leaders in the fintech industry, and companies such as Flutterwave, PalmPay, MTN Mobile Money, PiggyVest, ranking among the top 250 fintech companies globally. And I think we should clap for these young guys. Nigeria also has 5 out of the top 7 unicorn fintech companies in Africa. Just to be clear, for those that don't know what a unicorn is, that's when the capitalization of a company reaches $1 billion and above. So when you have young Nigerians, 5 out of 7, with companies doing that, that tells you the potential that we have to take over the world. Today we have InterSwitch, Flutterwave, Opay, and Andela demonstrating the ingenuity and the entrepreneurial capacity of Nigerians to lead, to innovate, and to dominate the competitive industry of the fintech. And that is why, Your Excellencies, the African Development Bank, along with partners, is investing $614 million in Nigeria in what is called an iDice program. This bold initiative is designed to develop digital and creative enterprises, which will add $6 billion to Nigeria's GDP and create 6.4 million jobs. The African Development Bank is also supporting a center of excellence in computer coding in Nigeria as part of our larger effort in Africa to develop 130 other centers that will develop the next generation of computer coders for artificial intelligence-driven economy that is already here. However, the Japa syndrome risks unraveling Nigeria's capacities in these fields unless urgent actions are taken to stem the tide. In 2022, a survey by Tech Cabal says 47% of the tech professionals in Nigeria indicated a desire to leave the country by 2024. There is no doubt that this will seriously hamper Nigeria's technological capacity to innovate, its readiness index for the 4th industrial revolution, and its ability to move into higher-end industries such as electronics, semiconductors, the development of appliances and machineries, and of course, space exploration. We must fix the reasons for the massive exodus of Nigeria's young and innovative talent. This requires a stable macroeconomic environment, strong infrastructure, more attractive salaries, state-of-the-art facilities, and technology hubs, support innovation and entrepreneurship, enhance talent absorptive capacities by industries, and fiscal incentives. We must do this with our eyes fixated on what we can potentially be, not just in West Africa, not just in Africa, but in the world. We must decisively harness and turn Nigeria's demographic asset into a talent dividend. We must become a global Nigeria, brimming with talent, skills, and entrepreneurship capacity that is powered by clear and strong and consistent and sustainable government policies to become globally competitive, and to retain our young talents if we are to drive growth and competitiveness globally. I know many people may think that getting Nigerians out of here, I'm not against immigration. Don't get me wrong. But I don't believe that the future of Nigerians' youth or that of Africa's youth lies in Europe, America, China, or anywhere else. It lies in a Nigeria growing very well with equitable growth, and Africa doing the same, able to create quality jobs for its own young people. And there is no doubt in my mind that we can do that. A global Nigeria will turn Japa, we are living, into Japada, we are back. To get there, I have some good news. I'm delighted to announce here today that just 3 days ago, the African Development Bank's Board of Directors approved $100 million for the establishment of the Youth Entrepreneurship Investment Bank for Nigeria. This new bank will support the businesses of the youth in Nigeria using technical assistance, business incubation, and invest equity, quasi-equity, and debt in these businesses, as well as deploy guarantee instruments to de-risk the lending to all this by all financial institutions in Nigeria. It will be a new day and a new dawn for Nigeria, and I want to congratulate the President and the team for that. Minister Wale Edun has worked exceptionally hard with us on this, and our Secretary to the Federal Government, please kindly thank him on my behalf. Your Excellencies, as I bring this to a close, while we have several challenges, the opportunities before us are immense. Our challenges are nothing more than hurdles that we can and we must surmount in our race to transform Nigeria from a developing nation into a developed and well-respected nation. The French poet and novelist Victor Hugo said, "Nothing is more powerful than an idea whose time has come." It is time for a global Nigeria. Nelson Mandela said, "It always seems impossible until it is done." It is time to look beyond our challenges and decisively seize the moment. When others doubt us, we must never doubt ourselves. United, focused, and determined, we must create a new and brighter future for Nigeria, a global Nigeria. For the time has come for Nigeria to arise and shine. Yes, in the words of Isaiah chapter 30, verse 3, "Arise and shine, for your light has come. Nations shall come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your rising." Indeed, the labors of our heroes past will never be in vain. And as a people, we will proudly serve our sovereign motherland. I am optimistic about a global Nigeria. It is well within our collective reach and our collective capacities to make it happen. As we celebrate General Gowon's 90th birthday and Nigeria's 64th birthday, let us in unison commit to achieving a global Nigeria. Oh, our dear nation, Nigeria. As a nation born in hope, sustained by hope, destined for greatness, you will fulfill your promise. Through storms and raging winds, your anchor will hold firm, guiding us towards a glorious future. We will safeguard your light, no matter how it flickers, for your enduring flame will never be dimmed. God bless you all, our dear nation, our homeland, Nigeria. Let us go on, as Gowon says, with one Nigeria. Congratulations and happy 90th birthday, General Yakubu Gowon. May God bless and continue to keep you. May God bless our beloved nation and help us to become a prosperous, shining light, a truly global Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Your Excellencies, please be seated. Thank you very much. Today, we listened to a passionate Nigerian deliver the keynote at the 90th birthday anniversary lecture on this 18th day of our Lord 2024. Because I am not perfect in doing what it takes to give a bosa, I call on our coppers in the house to do the honors. Let's go. 3 bosas. I can't hear you. Dr. Adeshino, that was for you. We need a global Nigeria.
Former President Olusegun Obasanjo, the chairman of the occasion, Your Eminence Adabaka III, our guest speaker, his lovely wife, President of the ECOWAS Commission here, Excellency Vice President Sambo, Royal Fathers President, let me stand the existing protocol. It gives me personally a great honor for me to be here, to be invited to make a goodwill message in part of the celebration of our great father. I remember for me, in those many years ago, as a young boy, who my only closeness to the celebrant today was being invited to children's party in Dodam Barracks many years ago, when I was still much younger in shorts and shirts. To have this occasion here to celebrate you, what you have done for this great country, I congratulate you, sir. I congratulate you. As we congratulate you, we thank the Almighty God for protecting you. We of our generation continue to be indebted to you for your wisdom, courage, and your commitment to the united Nigeria and the oneness of this country. It is our foundation that you've laid that has made it possible for this country to be able to stay together at these trying times. As President Obasanjo said, it is not your celebration. It's a celebration of our great nation for a great man, for what you've been able to do. We continue to believe and live by what you've left behind and what you continuously as the President of this country to do our best, as a great speaker said, and make Nigeria as great as it should be. But today is for us to celebrate you. Thank you, sir, for what you've done for this country. Thank you for the sacrifice you made for this country. And thank you for the humility that you've done and you've had for this country. But as you look so young, you need to tell us what it is so that we can continue. As part of the thing we're going to export, maybe it's something we can export from Plateau to the world. But more importantly, maybe thank our mother who brought grace and finesse and style way back in those days to the kind of Christmas parties and parties you used to have, end-of-year parties. You're still looking as graceful as ever. I thank God for your lives. Thank you so much. We thank you on behalf of our generation for what you've done for this country. God bless. Congratulations.
Of what we used to say, old soldier never die. So I will continue to pray for him because I have always considered myself part of this. I have lived with his brothers very closely, and I worked with some of his brothers too. So I have always considered myself as part of his family. He is a decent man, I must say. Very, very decent indeed. free from disruptive influences. I think his ability to keep this country one, that is the greatest thing that General Gowon has done for this country. We still have a lot to learn from General Gowon. His commitment to this country, his commitment to the development of this country, and he was a decent man. And I will advise the younger generation to study General Gowon and read about him, read about his life and so on. And maybe you can start building it from there. He handled the affairs of this country at a reasonably young age. So if he was able to do it well, they should copy him, emulate him, so that they could do what he has done for the country. And the only way to do it was to study him, to study his life, to study his works, to study what he did even as a military officer.
One winter alone is not an easy journey. And to endure 90 winter.
Excellencies, members.
To endure one winter alone is not an easy journey. And to endure 90 winters is something you can only imagine. So we wish General Yakubu Gowon well. And people of my age and above, when the name Gowon is mentioned, what will come to mind is the Civil War. Then I was in primary school, I think primary 5 or so. He was a very young officer, military officer, in his early 30s, 32, 33. And at that age, he led Nigeria through a civil war. It is when a leader has challenges, when you lead a country or a group of people during challenges, that is when you know the worth of a good leader. General Gowon showed clearly that his vision and focus was the unity of Nigeria. His vision and focus was the peace of this country. And he had demonstrated that very, very clearly. And that is why, even after dropping the rifle and bayonet, he picked the Holy Book, the Bible, and continued to advocate for the unity of Nigeria and the peace of Nigeria through his NGO, Nigeria Pray. So you see, he's a man that totally committed to peace. And that is why any day you see Gowon, you see a peaceful man. As a leader, you see that he wants the best for his people. He feels the pains of his people and was committed to do what is right for his people. You can describe him as a peace ambassador by excellence. So on such a day, so many people will say so many things about Gowon. As a primary school people, when Gowon was head of state, I never imagined myself and Gowon would sit together to even have conversation. But whenever we are in Council of State meeting, I listen to him, I'm proud of him, and I learned a lot from him. He's inspired us to do what we continue to do. Congratulations, Your Excellency, General Yakubu Gowon.
The father of united Nigeria, General Yakubu Gowon, and of course, our mother who has nursed you up to 90, and she will continue to nurse you, Field Marshal Victoria Gowon.
we've been advised not to repeat protocols, but you will understand why I cannot but mention a former president, President Olusegun Obasanjo. Because if I don't do that, the former president will think that Oshobole is planning to go on strike. But sir, for me, it's a mixed feeling. I told the guy when he told me I was going to say something, I said, first, this podium is not designed for people like me. Because those who are there can't even see me. And I said, what will I say on the occasion of our father's birthday, looking at the people around? I was in a small village that is not on Nigeria map. And I listened, not to radio, but those who listen tell us, under the tree, that the head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, is going to make a speech, usually on first day of January. There will be budget, which are also effectively decreed into law, and we'll ask, is there any provision for salary increase and stuff like that? And the voice that I recollect is still the same voice of our father at 90. Like the bishop said, or Cardinal said, only very few people, exceptionally blessed by God, will attain 90 feet without walking stick and even sitting with their wife. So your reward is not just in heaven for what you have done for our great country. God has already blessed you with longevity, good health, and peace of mind with your family. When I was a worker, and I think on this occasion, I must thank you on behalf of those who were workers then. We were beneficiaries of Udoji Award. Where you said, you cannot accept that public sector worker will be so underpaid that the only way they can ride the car is to steal. So you not only adjusted wages, you paid 1 year arrears. And I remember even Fela the musician said, Motigba Udoji, Mo Ge Pomo Mo Ode. He had received Udoji Award, he no longer eat Pomo, although the big men are taking Pomo now from the table of the poor. So sir, you touch many lives that you will never be able to recollect, but those who benefited, I'm sure they will never forget you in a hurry. When I was privileged to govern in this state, I had the honor of inviting Your Excellency to commission some projects. My wife and I were not sure when I told her who you were, but when you arrived Benin, that for me, I felt so fulfilled, that the village boy can invite a former Nigeria head of state. For all that I have spoken, President Obasanjo did make the point that most of us here may not know anything about you where you were in the military, not to talk about where you were in government. But I had opportunity of asking a former general who later became a president of Nigeria. And he said to me, as a young officer, in the Nigeria most challenging period which President Goodluck Jonathan referred to, that when they want to go on the offensive, you will say, please remember, this is a family affair. We must not spill blood. We must remember that the objective is to keep Nigeria one. And he said, for some of them who were hawks, they said, General Gowon should be a Catholic priest and not a military officer, because he doesn't like any life be wasted. So, sir, you've done much more to keep Nigeria one. And since you left office, if we are going to talk of a man who can be said to be a true father, not involved in any controversy, not bereft of ideas, but you know where to channel those ideas. That man living today is General Yakubu Gowon. And let me report to you, sir, since President Obasanjo reported somebody to you, let me copy him and report to you that even the NYSC is on that threat. That vision that people must be posted outside their state of origin is almost being lost.
And I believe that on this occasion, the management of NYSC will be obliged to revisit that law that set up, in my view, the most important legacy project of your governance. And lastly, to the guest speaker, you are extremely eloquent, brilliant, and a true son of Africa. The only thing I found missing is that the ideological underpinning which has led us to where we are, you escaped it. I think we must revisit it. How did Volkswagen relocated out of Nigeria? How did Peugeot Automobile relocated out of Nigeria? How did Michelin relocated out of Nigeria? How did Dunlop relocated out of Nigeria? And here Nigeria become their key marketplace. That is arising, in my view, from reckless submission to Western commitment to free market. A market cannot be there if you only buy and you don't have anything to sell. May we have the wisdom to have a balanced ideological foundation for the sustainable growth and development of Nigeria. General Gowon, you deserve celebration. May God bless you, bless your wife, bless all of us that you have touched one way or the other. And I'm very proud to say I am a Nigerian, and General Gowon was once our military head of state. God bless you.
Mission, together we acknowledge your impact and express our gratitude for the difference that you have made in our lives and those of countless other Nigerians. As we celebrate your 90th birthday and reflect on your legendary legacy and life marked by integrity, honor, and purpose, we recognize the man who kept his promises. I thank you for the experience in my formative years, often spending time at your home and office in Dodon Barracks, where as a young boy, I witnessed up close and personal the meekness with which you led in federal authority. The experience has profoundly shaped my sense of mission in respectfully, with gentile, speaking truth to power, as our roles as clergymen often dispose us to amplify the voices of Nigerians as representatives of their pain, their plight, and often their aspirations for a better and equitable life. I fondly remember your humble approach to power, visiting friends, leaders, and cabinet members at our homes on Thompson Avenue in your Volkswagen Beetle, unaccompanied by aides and security personnel. This demystified power completely and made us feel very special. I cherish the memories of your approachability, even amidst the pomp and ceremony of the beautiful parades, as we also trooped the color at our Independence Day celebrations at the Tafawa Balewa Square here in Lagos. Thank you for consistently corresponding and being a true friend to my late parents, for which we are greatly proud. Dear Uncle Jack, your tenure as head of state brought peace, delivered prosperity, and brought progress to Nigeria. You assembled a team of some of the most brilliant minds our country had, the super permsecs, and led them amongst others with vision and wisdom as a listening leader. Your endeavors in reconciliation, national reconstruction, and rehabilitation in the aftermath of the Civil War were truly instrumental in healing our nation. I cherish the memory of serving Your Excellency and my dear Auntie Victoria in the prestigious stewardship role of ring bearer at your wedding. I still feel very honored to have been part of such a significant moment, bearing the tokens of your matrimonial union, which has endured through thick and thin, through civil war and national unity, these many 55 years. Your Excellency, your calm and steady hand has guided us through many challenges. Nigeria is grateful for you and hopes to benefit from your wisdom for many years to come. May God Almighty bless you, your precious wife, Auntie Victoria, your children, your grandchildren, and the entire Gowon clan. May the mighty hand of the Almighty God rest upon you with grace and peace always. And may He give you all of your heart's desire for your generations to come. This is Paul for the Adefarasi family.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, ably represented today by His Excellency, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, distinguished Senator George Akume, to come forward and deliver.
very much, Arts Council. Your Excellency, former Head of State, Father General Yakubu Gowon, accompanied by dear mother, Lady Victoria Gowon, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, chairman of this occasion, His Eminence, the Sultan, distinguished leaders, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. I stand here as a representative of the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, would have loved to be here, but is outside the country to the working leave. Your Excellency, the former President and celebrant, if you go through the program, the President is not expected to make a statement today. The President Day is tomorrow. A very beautiful statement has been crafted to honor you, to celebrate you, because you deserve a celebration. In my little village, in Wanun, in Taka local government, Benue State, there are over 20 young people who bear the name Gowon. And this is in recognition of your exploit, your service to your nation. Your Excellency, you have done Nigeria proud, you've done Africa proud, and we've learned so much from you. Our President has tremendous respect for your person and for your services to our dear country. I recall sometime, I think in 2021, you were coming back from Taraba where you had come to pray for our country, and you called me and said you were going to spend the night in Makodi. We had a discussion. I was so moved, I was so touched. The plan that the guest speakers mentioned in passing, he told me, other economists said the same thing, would have transformed this country into what we refer to as a Gulf state today. But the very Nigerians would have been somewhere closer to paradise. Unfortunately, the dream was shattered. That's for another day. But again, recall the issue of Fajakuta. It is said you cannot industrialize, you cannot make any meaningful impact, purposeful impact in the area of industrialization without having an integrated steel plant. President Shagari started work on that. 95% of that project had been completed. Again, shattered dreams. And you look at the visitor's book, Dajokuta, there are two very prominent comments there. 95% completed. It's a lot to finish it. It is still there. Additional professor talked of power. When we came in 1999, when this country returned to participatory democracy, there were attempts to increase power generation capacity of country. I think we were producing 3,000 megawatts. And the three tiers of government came together to fund an emergency power project that will lead to generation of 6,000 megawatts, which will be added to the national grid by December 2007. Again, shattered dreams. So you see, when Shomole said we should start from where we started missing things, he made a very valid point. This has been a remarkable statement, speech by our very, very distinguished scholar, who is himself a local product. He finished from the University of Ife, so the foundation was laid locally before he moved over. And I recall sometime, I think in 2022, in Jamaica at Montego Bay, met with Andrew Young, former ambassador of US to the United Nations. On the same table, he came with his large group, we were talking, and he eulogized the intelligence, the brilliance of Nigerians. And he said in the health sector alone, there were over 22,000 Nigerian consultants, 22,000 medical consultants. And most of these were those who had been educated locally at the foundation level before they moved to the United States. And he said he visited one very sophisticated facility. And he was told that the most complicated, the most sensitive component of that facility is the vision of a Nigerian. We don't like good people. Some of the things Professor has mentioned in his statement are the things that this government is putting in place today. There are complex problems. Their solutions can never be as instant as coffee. You know, it's coffee that you take it and then instantly it charges you. These are complex problems. So please, I want to thank you so much for doing so much for your country, and you told me you are doing more. Professor Oraman, another Nigerian, first-class economist like you, who's the president of Afrexim Bank, also supporting this country. Some of the things that have happened, it's just unfortunate they have happened. But we cannot continue to behave like drained chicken. As Howard said, as human beings, we should be capable of self-pity, but not for so long. We must move ahead. Nations are great because their citizens believe that tomorrow will be always better than today. God bless Nigeria. God bless Yakubu Gowon and family. Thank you.
Choir, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I bring to the podium for his response our father, the father of modern Nigeria, His Excellency General Dr. Yakubu Gowon, GCFR. Please, a standing ovation for him.
Very good. Kindly be seated. Kindly be seated. Thank you. Protocol-wise, it is always correct to recognize the chairman first before anyone else, no matter how high. So, may I say, Your Royal Highness or Your Eminence, Al-Haji Dr. Muhammadu Saad, no, Saad, don't you worry, I know. Saad Abubakar III. Now, you say he is the third. I know the first. And that first was a special man who ensured that we must have peace. After the first insurrection in this country, he came, plead for peace, so that there is no reaction. I wonder what would have happened if things have gone differently. But for that man, when General Ironsi invited him to come to Lagos after what happened on January the 15th, and what he did, honestly, certainly saved the country from totally breaking up at that time. So I give him that respect. And his son, well, he also became a soldier. And a very good, was it Colonel? Well, don't you worry. He is holding a very high and important position in his part of the world. Well, I'm supposed to just say, well, Your Excellency, Mr. Chairman, and then to introduce the most high and respected leadership in the country. And of course, here is where, we say, we recognize the president of this country now being represented by Senator George Akume, the Secretary to the Government, and then President of the Senate, beg your pardon. And then I think I must recognize, I think there is somebody who always follows me behind. He's called Aremu. And I can tell you yes. Now, from our first meeting in 1958 at Hythe, did you remember that, Aremu? He was on a course. I was also on a course, but of course I was a senior one, and he had to bail me out. When at the end of the week, when we've had our dinner and we've dined and had our wine, etc., you've got to pay your bill. And of course, I had arrived. I haven't got my Esther code rate, so I haven't got much what I could pay with. And then there were two young Nigerian officers, young officers there then. And I think Shotomi was one of them. And of course, Aremu. Don't you worry, he's Obasanjo there, Obasanjo. And of course, so I had to ask them if they have any money that I can be able to use to pay for my mess bill. And of course, the first one, Shotomi, a very interesting young man. Well, said he couldn't make it. He hasn't got anything to give. So I asked Obasanjo then. And of course, he was able to give me, I think it was about £7 then, 7 British pounds then. And so I paid my bill. And when my Esther code, of course, came later, I gave it to him. So I took interest in him since then. And to make sure that when he comes back to back to Nigeria, he should really always try to do the right thing. And yes, so when he came back and he said he wanted to do engineering, I was advising him, engineering, there isn't very much opportunity to go right up, because at that time you only consider the infantry officers as people that might probably go right up to generalship. So I told him, why don't you go to infantry, and then you can get on faster. And of course, but however, he said no, he's going to remain as a sapper at that time. That is engineering. So that is him, and that was how we came very close with one another right through until today. So let me say this, that I'm supposed to be making a response to this lecture. Response to what? Yeah, the response and also the tribute that we've received, my goodness, it has covered everything that everyone wants to sort of say, giving us credit for for what has happened in the past. So there is no need for me to say any response to this, other than to say the response is, may I say, and I'm sure all of you will agree, that it is a wonderful lecture that we've had. It contained everything, advice to government, which I will sort of say, all government today, tomorrow, and after, any Nigerian government should listen to that advice that is given. And honestly, with all the contribution also from all the contributors that made tribute today, I think that is my response. And I say just a very big thank you to all of you, everyone that is here, and all those who probably wanted to come but they could not make it. So that is my response for a wonderful lecture. And Grace, Madam, I gave her a new name, Christian her. This was in March this year at Awolowo Award Foundation. Christian her, I gave her a new name. Well, I thought I was going to be given a ticket for doing that. And I gave her, what name did I give you? Was it Jennifer? I gave you Jennifer. And of course, so today, I sort of say, I know you've forgiven me. I ask you to forgive me for giving you that name. But today, of course, it is Grace. Congratulations and well done for all the support you've been giving him to be able to do what he's been able to do in the African Development Bank and putting it right up there with any international organization. And my goodness gracious me, the way he is defending the interests of Africa and doing all he could, for Africa, that is great. So I'm delighted that my wife, the Field Marshal, shall I say, I'm glad that she insisted that the person to come to give the lecture today would be him. Would be Dr. Akiwume Adesina. And I'm very glad that he was able to do it so brilliantly. Now, do you agree or not? Do you agree that it is an excellent, And that should be my response?
Yes.
Good, so that we can live. God bless. So thank you very much indeed. And Grace, thank you. Thank you for being such a good partner. Mr. President of ECOWAS, Mr. Toure, thank you very much for giving us the use of your hall for this celebration. God bless you and God bless ECOWAS. Don't be disappointed what has happened recently, the Sahel group. But one thing that I know, they have not yet, no country has broken any diplomatic relations, direct relations with any of these countries. So in a way, they are still part of ECOWAS, in the spirit of ECOWAS. So continue to relate with them and bring them closer for the sake of our region that is doing so well, of which I know you are also helping very much indeed. So thank you all very much indeed. Thank you all for celebrating my 90th birthday. Now may I also wish each and every one of you your happy birthday and future 90th birthday. God bless you all.
Amen.
Thank you.
While standing, can we please give Daddy another resounding applause? Soft-spoken, icon, leader, and of course, quintessential peace-setter. Please have a warm applause for His Excellency General Yakubu Gowon, GCFR. Go on with your Nigeria. Very quick announcements as he gets to his seat. The first announcement is that